Well, this year definitely didn't hold back. Usually I have to go up north to do snowmobiling, but this year we were blessed with lots of snow. Just kept on coming and coming. Christmas came and thought we were going to have a green Christmas, but you know what? Ever since then, for the past couple months, we've just been getting a little bit of snow here and there, and wife says I can hardly wait for the snow to be over. But you know what? For myself, even though I have to drive and everything else, it's always nice to get out on the snowmobile. It's hard not wanting to go again. Brings me back actually to the time I went up north, just my latest trip. I ended up calling up my cousin Stefan. I just had so much fun before, and asked him whether he had any plans for Family Day weekend. And he says, well, I don't know, wife and I are thinking maybe we'll go to the Winterfest. They had a Winterfest in Haliburton that weekend. But you know what? When he saw that I had interest in coming, he's like, no, I'm not going to the Winterfest, I'm going to go sledding. So that's what we did. Nice 5-hour drive up to Minden, Ontario. That's where one of my uncles live. And you know what? This was the best trip ever, because you know what? So many more places that we went and a lot more riding, I tell you. Hi guys. Well, we're here. Got here yesterday. Go inside here. Show you what we're dealing with as far as weather compared to what we have in Exeter. Take a look at this. This is the winter wonderland. Just got some fresh snow last night. Got the permits put on today. There's the hogshead. Next time you see video, we'll be out in the sleds. So first day we ended up going to Dorset, which, you know what, I remember just watching these YouTube videos, but actually being there, they skim the lake there. They got a little area that's unthawed, and they got a lot of competitions there and try out these different machines and stuff. I was very reluctant. We went over a few lakes before where I was reluctant because I've never been over open water before. But you know what, there really isn't anything, because as long as you're going and you don't stop, it's fun. Just like riding a Sea-Doo in the summer. But as soon as we got into Dorset, we went right over the bridge, and I was looking at that open water there, and it just brought me back. It just kind of, you know, made me think, man, I would just love to do that. I've tried it before. And so anyways, we got into the town there and just looking at all the different snowmobiles and everybody. Saw all these different antique sleds and stuff like that. We stopped in at Zachary's restaurant. My Uncle Steve wanted to treat us, so Robert and I and my Uncle Steve stopped in there. Had some fish and chips, at least I did. That's my favorite. And we just kind of discussed our trip. You know what, that's the thing we do. It's not about just the ride, it's about the camaraderie. It's, you know, the fellowship between everybody, you know, and just enjoying the outdoors. And you know what? I mean, I enjoy the fields and everything here, but you know what? When you go there, it's just trail after trail after trail. And it really gives you a lot of experience just riding all the sharp turns and whatnot. It's just totally different than what you're used to. The trails there are very well groomed. With all the amount of snowmobilers and whatnot, just the way they manage the trails. They actually open their trails up very early. It's definitely a different experience because trails are more wider, puts you into the, you know, real experience training you. It does sharpen up your skills. My cousin Stefan was telling me that closer to Haliburton, there's more trails in the local area there that are open. So basically what we did is there was actually some of them that were closed due to thaw-outs, because some of the lakes, they have a little bit of current, so we had to bypass some of the other lakes and some of the other trails. So we went right from Dorset right back into Haliburton Forest, which is north of the town of Haliburton, and we were making our way back into Haliburton, which is where Stefan lives. But in Haliburton Forest, there was just lots of this, and that's just something I just wasn't used to. And when the snow is really packed down, it can get quite rough. If you don't have good suspension, I tell you, when you're done, you're really tired, and but it was good. All was good. It was a different experience for me, and I kind of, I was a little back a ways, because, you know, again, I mean, I'm not up north all the time, and just kind of getting used to the trails and some of the guys' techniques and just the way they ride. And, you know, you're with some really competitive riders, some snowmobilers and up north. Tell you, I mean, they'll keep you on your toes. So I found myself back a ways, and I was trying to keep up. The other thing I did learn too, when you are coming to an oncoming snowmobiler, you always have to indicate to that oncoming snowmobiler how many are in your party. So basically, if you have one person behind you, you have to signal one person. If you don't have anybody, then it's just a fist. It means nothing, zero. Nobody's behind you. But you always have to indicate whether there's anybody behind you or not, just in case something happens. And also so that they can expect somebody behind you. It's just that communication. Everybody's friends on the trails. I also noticed there too, I mean, with the experience that's there, a lot of people are willing to help you. You know, if you're pulled over on the side, you can be guaranteed and rest assured that whoever comes to help you will have all the tools that are necessary to help you get through whatever you need to get through. Where in a very wide area, like in a farm field or wherever you are here, there's very slight chance that you may have somebody coming to stop by. My cousin Robert had just bought his Arctic Cat, and he was experiencing a little bit of problems here and there. One of his cylinders were knocking out, but he stayed right beside me there, and where everybody else was just far off, and they tended to stop a lot. Where's Joe? Joe's far back. So we made ourselves back to Haliburton, and we're bombing around a head lake there. And actually, my cousin Jonathan, he was there also. I forgot about him. He was riding this machine, and I was riding my Grand Touring. And he was actually skimming some water there on Head Lake, right in Haliburton. And I said, Jonathan, I don't know. You know, you can do it with your machine, but just make sure, you know, if you sink my machine. But anyways, all was good, and I had a good time. The day went by very fast. We got out early that morning, and you know, we got to Dorset, and that alone was probably about a 2-hour ride. And then, you know, making our way back to Haliburton Forest and Haliburton, that was a good probably 3/4 of the day. And yeah, it's just lots of area to cover, and you know what, you can't cover it all in one day, not even the whole weekend. I mean, you'd have to be there for like a month just to cover all the trails. It's very picturesque. Just looking at all the trails, and just looking at all the scenery, looking at all the rocks, and just amazing. It gives you more incentive to go up north because you want to look at the scenery, right? If you're just going out to ride, stay here. But if you want to look at the scenery, go up north. It's quite the experience. So we came back to Haliburton, and Stefan says, well, let's stop over at my place. And we just could hardly wait to come back and just warm up a bit and talk about our next day. Sunday came along, and we were just kind of casually bombing around a little bit, just Haliburton area, and just kind of hung out a bit. And we're talking about Monday already. Monday came along, and you know, Graham, my cousin Stefan's brother-in-law, well, I got to tell you, he's a very avid hunter. He's a jack of all trades. Built his own house with my cousin Rebecca, and he came along. He found out I was there, and he says, well, Joe, would you want to come ice fishing? This is something I've never done in my life. Shamefully, I say that. I've been fishing, but I've never been ice fishing. I always see here on Lake Huron, when we have those really cold years, like even this year, those little portable huts that people put out and they're ice fishing just on the shore. But I've never tried it myself, and I always kept on saying to my dad, let's go ice fishing. So this time I took advantage of it, and so we went back. I stayed at Stefan's place, and we got up early in the morning and we went ice fishing. So we took both sleds. Jonathan and I took both of my sleds and met them out on Kennisis Lake. Now Kennisis Lake, my Uncle Steve used to own a resort, Windermere Cottage, and this lake is very, very precious to us, very close to us. Lots of memories there. So we decided to go out in Kennisis Lake. They were already set up there. Grandma already had most of the holes all made up. I was just kind of like, what do I need to do? But I'm standing there and I'm listening, and I hear this cracking. Like, what's that? And you can hear the ice just cracking just in spots here and there, right? And I'm not used to this, just standing out on the ice. It's one thing just bombing around on the sled, but standing there on the ice and you don't know really where you are because there's a lot of snow. So calm down, have a good time. So that's what I did. Had a nice hot chocolate there, Stefan and Graham offered me, and started fishing. Gave me one of those little fishing rods that are just this long, and with a little minnow, and just started dipping it into the hole. Hey, guess what though? Got my first little fish, got a trout. Well, here I am ice fishing. Can you believe it? Look at this. Now, nothing like ice fishing. Okay? A little different. Just got one. That's it. Out of that hole there. Just right over here. And got this thing. Right there. Number 2, with this one I'm keeping. Then Jonathan got a trout, and voila. I mean, Jonathan and I, we come up north, newbies, and we get ourselves a trout. Away from the sun. Alright. Sweet. Beauty. We'll keep this one. Yeah. It was just an awesome time. Just watching everybody do their thing. It was just an amazing time. Just enjoying the fresh air, God's creation, and having an experience of a lifetime that I've never experienced before. And I got to say, I was very grateful for that experience. And you know what? That was a time that I'll cherish. After Monday, I knew I had to go back home. My Uncle Steve came over to Stefan's place with his machine, so he was going to be my guide. So we left Stefan's place, departed, made our way back to Minden. And you know what? My wife actually told me, she said the ride from Haliburton to Minden, she enjoyed it, except she didn't like the part where we were on the road on the asphalt because there's just no traction. I think my carbides on my Grand Touring were a little low, and my runners, so I wasn't able to steer a whole lot. But basically, just the trip in general, she doesn't like speed, but she said she actually enjoyed that ride back to Minden. I would highly, highly suggest to you, if you ever do plan on going up north, you want to make sure you're very familiar with the lakes. There's lots of accidents that take place every year, lots of incidents where snowmobilers will go right through the ice. So I suggest to you, make sure you go with somebody that is very familiar with the area, that's somebody that lives in the area, because you know what, you get a lot of these new people to the area that will go and think the area is fine, and you know what, there will be an incident. And this is what I learned as well. The lakes are not part of the OFSC trails, so they post use at your own risk. So when you go out on the lake, they're not responsible. You are responsible. You have to be a responsible rider. And if you see any open water, stay far away from it. Don't ever go over open water if you're not experienced. You definitely want to make sure your sled is working perfectly, because if it ever stalls, wouldn't be a good thing. So definitely, I just wanted to point that out. If you ever plan on going on the lakes, make sure you have a guide, somebody that's very familiar with the area, and you're going at your own risk. Lakes are not part of the OFSC trails, only on land. And even if you go out on a land trail, they will post use at your own risk if the trails are not groomed. Especially if you go into like a farm field or whatever, you could get stubbles or whatever, could flip your sled over, it could cause a serious accident. It's happened many times. So make sure you're only using the trails that are open. I was eager so many times to get out, but you know what? Just play it safe, because what you do will affect everybody else. The mistake that you make will cause mistakes for other people, and other innocent people that want to abide by the rules, you could cause headache for them as well. Hopefully we'll see each other again on another trip, but this white stuff will soon be gone and we'll be in summer again. So I challenge you to do the same thing. Take your child out, take your brother out or whoever, take your wife out. Get out on the machine and go snowmobiling. There's always something to do all year round, whether it's sea-doing in the summertime or whether it's snowmobiling in the wintertime. It's a great time together. It gives us an excuse to get out. It's a little cold, but if you're wearing the proper gear, you're warm and you're having a good old time.